They walk past you like you're not even there. You speak. And the conversation continues as if you never open your mouth. You share something important, and it's met with silence, or worse, that polite nod that says they're not actually listening. They're just waiting for their turn to talk about themselves. And here's what makes it cut deeper. You know they heard you. You watch their eyes glaze over. You felt the exact moment they decided you weren't worth their attention, that your words, your presence, your very existence in that space didn't matter enough to acknowledge. Maybe it's at work. You present an idea in the meeting, a good idea. You know it's good because 3 minutes later, someone else says the exact same thing, and suddenly everyone's nodding. Suddenly it's brilliant. Suddenly it's worth discussing. But when it came from your mouth, nothing, not even the courtesy of disagreement, just absence. Or maybe it's social. You're at the gathering. You're technically part of the group, but you feel it, that invisible barrier. They're not hostile. That would almost be better, because at least hostility means you register as a threat. No, they're just indifferent. You could leave right now, and no one would notice for 20 minutes, maybe longer. And you've tried everything, haven't you? You tried speaking louder. That just made you feel desperate. You tried being funnier, more interesting, more accommodating. You bent yourself into shapes trying to earn their attention. And the more you tried, the more invisible you became, like you were confirming exactly what they already believed about you, that you're someone who can be safely ignored. The worst part isn't even the ignoring itself. It's what it does to you inside. You start questioning everything, your worth, your intelligence, your right to take up space. You catch yourself before speaking now, thinking, is this worth saying? Will they care? Should I even bother? And every time you censor yourself, every time you shrink, you feel a piece of your self-respect die. You lie awake at night replaying moments. What could you have said differently? What's wrong with you that you don't command the same attention others do effortlessly? Why do they matter and you don't? And society gives you garbage advice. Be more confident, as if you can just will people to see you. Put yourself out there more. You've been putting yourself out there. They're just not looking. Maybe you're too sensitive. No, you're not imagining this. The data is clear. The ignored texts, the interrupted sentences, the forgotten invitations, the way they remember everyone else's stories but never yours. You're not crazy. You're not oversensitive. You're being ignored, and it's eating you alive. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. In this world, to be ignored is to be told you don't matter. It's a kind of social death, an erasure. You're there, but you're not really there, a ghost haunting your own life. And the cruelty of it is, they're not even doing it maliciously most of the time. That would almost be easier to process. No, they're doing it unconsciously, which means they've categorized you so quickly and so completely that you don't even register as someone worth conscious thought. You become background noise in your own story. But what if I told you that everything you think you know about being ignored is wrong? What if I told you that the most powerful men in history, the ones who changed the world, the ones whose names echo through centuries, many of them were ignored, dismissed, overlooked at exactly the moment they were building something unshakable? What if I told you that being ignored isn't happening to you, it's happening for you? And what if I told you that your desperate need for their attention is the only thing standing between you and a kind of power they'll never understand? The ancient Stoics knew something about being ignored that changes everything. They understood that in the absence of others' attention lies the presence of something far more valuable, your own. Here's what you don't realize while you're scrambling for their attention. Every single time you try to make them notice you, every time you adjust your personality, your opinions, your energy to fit what you think they want, your bleeding power, you're taking the finite resource of your life force, your authenticity, your self-respect, and you're pouring into a black hole that will never be filled. Because here's the trap they don't tell you about. The game is rigged from the start. You cannot win their attention by seeking it. You cannot earn their respect by needing it. The very act of chasing makes you less worthy of catching. It's a cruel paradox, but it's true. Watch what happens when someone desperately wants you to like them. You feel it, right? That subtle repulsion, that uncomfortable energy that makes you want to create distance. They're trying so hard, and it's precisely that effort that makes them invisible to you. Now you're doing the same thing, and you don't even see it. Every time you over-explain yourself, every time you laugh a little too hard at their jokes, every time you accept their dismissal with a smile, every time you pretend you don't notice being talked over, you're teaching them exactly how to treat you. You're confirming their initial assessment. This person doesn't value themselves. Therefore, I don't need to value them either. And society has been lying to you about why this happens. They told you it's because you're not charismatic enough, not successful enough, not interesting enough. So you worked on all those things. You improved yourself. You achieved things. And still, the ignoring continued, maybe even intensified, because you were operating on a fundamentally broken premise. You believed that external validation was the measure of your worth. You believed that being noticed was the goal. You believed that if people saw you, acknowledged you, gave you attention, then you would finally feel complete, finally feel powerful, finally feel like you matter. But here's the truth that will shatter everything. The people ignoring you are not your problem. Your need for them to see you is your problem. Think about the people who ignore you. Really think about them. What do most of them have that's so valuable? Are they living extraordinary lives? Are they creating anything meaningful? Or are they just, they're existing, gossiping, consuming, moving through life on autopilot? And you're giving them the power to determine your worth. You're allowing people who may never create anything, never risk anything, never become anything beyond mediocre, to decide whether you matter. Do you see the insanity of that? Here's what actually happens in the psychology of attention. When you need someone to notice you, they feel that need, and need, real need, triggers a primal disgust response in humans, because need signals weakness, and weakness signals that you're a net drain on resources. So they unconsciously categorize you as someone to avoid investing attention in. But when you genuinely don't need their attention, when you're so absorbed in your own purpose, your own thoughts, your own mission, that their opinion of you is irrelevant, something shifts. Suddenly you become interesting. Suddenly they wonder what you're thinking. Suddenly your silence creates curiosity where your words created indifference. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control. But it's deeper than that. Marcus Aurelius ruled the entire known world. Literally, every person in the empire technically owed him their attention, but he wrote in his private journal, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Let that sink in. The most powerful man on earth, a god king by Roman standards, still observed this fundamental human sickness, this addiction to external validation. And he was reminding himself daily not to fall into that trap, because he understood something crucial. The opinion of others is not just worthless, it's dangerous. It's a drug that promises fulfillment, but delivers only emptiness and dependency. Every hit of validation you get, you need a bigger hit next time, until your entire sense of self is outsourced to people who couldn't care less about your actual well-being. You become a puppet, and they don't even need to hold the strings. You do it to yourself. Think about your life right now. How much energy are you spending trying to be seen? How many decisions are you making based on how others will react? How often do you stop yourself from doing what you want because it might seem weird, might seem too much, might seem not enough? You're not living your life. You're performing a character in a play where the audience doesn't even care if you're on stage. And here's the most brutal part. The more you seek attention, the more invisible you become, because everyone can sense that you're not a complete person. You're a half person desperately seeking completion through their gaze, and no one wants to bear that responsibility. But what if you stopped seeking? What if you withdrew your need entirely? What if you built something so solid inside yourself that whether they notice or ignore you makes no difference to your state of being? That's not just philosophy. That's warfare, psychological warfare. And you just discovered your greatest weapon. Let me tell you about a man named Epictetus. He was born into slavery. Not just poor, not just dismissed, literally owned his property. His owner tortured him so severely that he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. His name literally meant acquired one. He was so insignificant that his owner didn't even bother giving him a real name. If anyone in history had a right to obsess over being ignored, dismissed, treated as if they didn't matter, it was Epictetus. But something extraordinary happened in that extreme absence of external validation. With nothing, no status, no attention, no recognition, no hope of any of those things, he turned inward, and in that inward turn, he discovered a kingdom that no one could touch, no one could invade, no one could even see, the kingdom of his own mind, his own judgment, his own will. He became one of the most influential philosophers in human history. His lectures, delivered to freedmen and nobles who traveled across the empire to seek his wisdom, still shape how we think about resilience, about power, about freedom. 2,000 years later, the slave became the teacher of emperors, and his core teaching. This, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But even more profound, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Read that again. Be content to be thought foolish and stupid. He wasn't saying act foolish. He was saying, stop caring if they think you're foolish. Stop performing for their validation. Stop adjusting yourself to their frequency. Be so grounded in your own assessment of yourself that their misassessment becomes irrelevant, even amusing. This is the secret that flips everything. The Stoics didn't teach transcending your need for attention because it's morally superior. They taught it because it's tactically superior, because the man who needs nothing from you is the man you cannot control. And the man you cannot control is the man you cannot ignore. Marcus Aurelius understood this from a completely different angle. He had all the attention a human being could possibly receive, millions of subjects. Every word he spoke was recorded, every action was watched, every decision was analyzed. He was drowning in attention, and he wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Do you understand what he's saying? Even when they're giving you attention, even when they're praising you, even when they're hanging on your every word, they're not actually seeing you. They're seeing their projection, their opinion, their need, their agenda. So whether they ignore you or obsess over you, neither tells you anything true about your worth. Both are equally illusory. Both are equally irrelevant to the only question that matters. Am I living according to reason? Am I building something real? Am I becoming who I'm meant to become? Seneca, the wealthiest man in Rome, advisor to the emperor, he wrote something that seems counterintuitive until you understand the depth of it. The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. But he applied this to social situations too. He wrote, "How much time is wasted on impressing people who we wouldn't even want to know better? Think about the people whose attention you're chasing. If they suddenly wanted to be your best friend tomorrow, would you even want that? Do you actually respect them? Or are you just addicted to the pursuit?" The Stoics practice something called negative visualization, but they also practice what I call attention fasting. They would deliberately do things that invited being ignored, dismissed, overlooked. They would test themselves. Can I attend this gathering and speak not at all? Can I go an entire day without seeking any form of validation? Can I work on something meaningful that no one will ever praise? They were building emotional muscle, the capacity to exist fully and powerfully even in complete social darkness, because they understood something that modern psychology is only now confirming. Your sense of self cannot be dependent on others' recognition of you, because that makes you fragile. One bad day, one group that excludes you, one person who dismisses you, and your entire foundation crumbles. But if your sense of self is rooted in your own rational assessment, your own values, your own mission, your own character, then you become unbreakable. Not because nothing can hurt you, but because nothing can shake your foundation. Marcus Aurelius watched his most trusted generals betray him. His wife was rumored to be plotting his assassination. His own son was a disaster. The plague was killing thousands daily. The empire was crumbling. And in his tent at night, he wrote to himself, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." He didn't write, "My life is what others think of it." He wrote, "My life is what my thoughts make it." That's not just philosophy. That's the blueprint for psychological invincibility. When you're ignored, you have a choice that most people never even realize exists. You can either keep bleeding your power into the void, desperately seeking their gaze, or you can turn that same energy inward and start building something they'll never understand, but will eventually be forced to acknowledge, not because you need them to, but because what you build becomes so undeniable that ignoring it will require more effort than acknowledging it. So here's exactly how you weaponize being ignored. This isn't theory. This is a tactical playbook for levels that transform you from someone who needs attention to someone who commands it without seeking it. Level 1, awareness and severance. For the next 7 days, you're going to become hyper-aware of every moment you seek validation. Every time you're about to speak, pause and ask, am I saying this because it needs to be said, or because I need to be heard? Every time you check your phone for responses, notice it. Every time you craft a message carefully to get a certain reaction, notice it. Every time you adjust your behavior based on who's watching, notice it. Don't judge it. Don't try to stop it yet. Just become disgustingly aware of how much of your life is spent in pursuit of others' attention. You'll be horrified. Good. That horror is the beginning of freedom. Then, start small. 1 interaction per day where you deliberately don't seek any validation. Someone asks your opinion, and you could say something impressive. Say something true instead, even if it's boring, even if they don't care. You're not performing. You're practicing existing without the drug of attention. Someone ignores what you said. Don't repeat yourself. Don't try to make them acknowledge you. Let it sit there in the silence. Feel that discomfort. That's your dependency dying. Good. Let it die. Level 2, the invisible period. Here's where it gets radical. For 30 days, you become strategically invisible, not completely withdrawn, but deliberately unremarkable. You show up, you do what needs to be done, but you stop trying to be interesting, stop trying to be funny, stop trying to be impressive. You become neutral, pleasant but forgettable. Why? Because you're creating space. Space away from a performance. Space away from the validation seeking. Space where you can hear your own thoughts without the static of others' opinions. During these 30 days, you pour all that energy you were spending on being seen into building something real, a skill, a project, a body of work, something that exists independent of anyone's acknowledgement. You're building in the darkness, like a seed underground, all that growth happening where no one can see it. And something interesting will happen. People will be confused. You're different. They won't be able to articulate how, but they'll sense it. You're no longer feeding their attention with your need, and that absence creates a vacuum, a curiosity, but you don't fill it. You let it build. Level 3, the reframe. This is where your psychology fundamentally shifts. Every time someone ignores you now, you don't see it as rejection. You see it as information. They just told you exactly who they are. Someone whose attention isn't worth having. They just saved you enormous amounts of energy you would have wasted trying to impress them. Someone talks over you. Thank you for showing me you're not worth engaging with deeply. Someone forgets what you told them. Thank you for showing me where not to invest my trust. Someone excludes you. Thank you for excluding me from mediocrity. This isn't cope. This isn't pretending it doesn't hurt. This is genuine reframing based on truth. Most people are not operating at a level where their attention adds value to your life. Their attention is actually a distraction from what you should be building. When Marcus Aurelius was ignored or dismissed by someone, he would think, perhaps they're right and I'm wrong. If so, I'll learn. Perhaps they're wrong and I'm right. If so, their error is their problem, not mine. Perhaps neither of us is right or wrong. We simply see differently. If so, what is there to be upset about? Every possible scenario leads to the same place, indifference to their judgment, not cold indifference, rational indifference, the kind that frees you to focus on what actually matters. Level 4, building the fortress. Now you're ready for the final level. You construct a daily practice, a ritual that grounds you so deeply in your own assessment that external validation becomes optional, not rejected, not needed, optional. You can enjoy it if it comes, but you don't depend on it. You don't chase it. You don't adjust your course based on its presence or absence. Morning, before you engage with anyone, you write 3 things. What do I want to build today? What am I grateful for that no one gave me? Who am I becoming regardless of who's watching? This anchors you in internal metrics before external metrics have a chance to hijack your psychology. Throughout the day, every time you feel that familiar pull, that need to be seen, you pause, take 3 breaths, and you redirect. You ask, what would the most grounded version of me do right now? Not the version seeking approval, the version who already has everything he needs. Evening, you review. Did I compromise my value for attention today? Did I say yes when I meant no? Did I shrink myself to fit? If yes, no judgment, just awareness. You're building a feedback loop that makes those compromises increasingly uncomfortable until they become impossible, and you practice what Epictetus called premeditatio malorum, negative visualization. You imagine the worst social scenarios, being completely ignored at an event, your ideas being stolen without credit, being excluded from something everyone else is invited to, and you practice your response. Not what you'll say to them, what you'll say to yourself. This is their error, not my problem. This tells me who they are. This frees me to focus on what matters. You're not hoping these things don't happen. You're becoming someone who doesn't need them not to happen. That's power, real power. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The kind that doesn't need permission. The kind that doesn't need an audience. You're building what the Stoics called an inner citadel, a fortress of self-possession that no amount of ignoring, no amount of dismissal, no amount of exclusion can penetrate, because you're no longer out there in the chaos seeking their validation. You're in here, building something they can't touch, won't understand, but will eventually be forced to respect. Not because you need their respect, but because you become someone who commands it naturally, as a byproduct, not as a goal. 6 months from now, you walk into the same room that used to make you anxious. The same people who used to ignore you are there, but something's different. You're different. They greet you, but you notice you don't feel that surge of validation you used to crave. You don't feel much of anything, actually. Not indifference born of bitterness. Indifference born of groundedness. They're just people. Their attention, or lack of it, doesn't change anything about who you become. Someone tries to talk over you. You don't fight for floor. You just stop talking mid-sentence. and something strange happens. The person who interrupted feels uncomfortable. They trail off, and suddenly there's space. But you don't rush to fill it. You let the silence do its work. When you do speak again, people listen, not because you demanded it, but because you embody the confidence that you have something worth saying only if they're capable of hearing it. Your phone buzzes less. Your social calendar has gaps. You're invited to fewer things. And you realize you don't care. Actually, you prefer it. Those gaps are filled with work that matters, thoughts that are yours, progress that no one sees but that you feel in your bones. The project you've been building in silence, it's taking shape, not for them, for you. Maybe it's a business. Maybe it's art. Maybe it's a skill you've mastered. Maybe it's just the discipline of your own mind. But whatever it is, it's real, it's substantial. It exists independent of anyone's acknowledgement. And then something unexpected happens. People start asking you questions. What have you been up to? You seem different. There's something about you I can't quite place. And you give them nothing, not out of spite, out of genuine disinterest in their validation. Just working on some things. Same as always. Brief, complete, unbothered. Your absence of need creates a presence they can't ignore. The people who used to dismiss you, some of them are suddenly interested. Some of them are resentful, wondering when you became too good for them. But you notice, you feel nothing. Their interest means as little as their dismissal did. Both are just weather, and you're the mountain. This is what the Stoics were pointing toward. Not a life without emotion, not a life without connection, but a life where your core, your foundation, your sense of worth and purpose exists independent of external circumstances. You can enjoy attention when it comes. You can appreciate genuine connection, but you no longer need these things to feel complete. You've discovered what Marcus Aurelius wrote in his darkest hour. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the quality of others' opinions, not the quantity of their attention, the quality of your own internal dialogue. And when you fix that, when you build that inner fortress, everything else becomes optional. You start seeing clearly. The people who ignored you weren't your enemies. They were your teachers. They gave you the greatest gift, the necessity to become self-sufficient, to build your worth from the inside out, to discover that you never needed their acknowledgement in the first place. Epictetus, the forgotten slave who became the teacher of the most powerful men in Rome, he said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. Their attention, beyond your control. Their respect, beyond your control. Their acknowledgement, beyond your control. So stop trying to control it. Stop bleeding your power into that void. Turn that energy inward, into what you can control. Your effort, your character, your response, your becoming. And when you do this, when you truly internalize this, something remarkable happens. You don't become bitter. You become free. You don't become cold. You become grounded. You don't become invisible. You become unforgettable. Not because you're performing, but because you stop performing. Not because you're seeking attention, but because you stopped seeking it. The philosopher Seneca wrote shortly before his forced suicide, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He understood, even facing death, that most of our suffering comes from our attachment to others' opinions, to their validation, to their acknowledgement. And when you sever that attachment, even death loses its sting, because you've already died to their judgment and been reborn in your own. So here's your choice in this moment. You can go back to seeking their attention. You can go back to adjusting yourself, performing, hoping, waiting for them to finally see you. You can go back to giving your power away, one interaction at a time, until there's nothing left of you but a hollow performance of who you think they want you to be. Or You can walk away from that game entirely. You can take everything you've learned here, not as theory, not as philosophy, but as a practical roadmap for reclaiming your psychological sovereignty. You can start building in the darkness, growing in the silence, becoming who you're meant to become, regardless of who's watching, regardless of who acknowledges it. And then one day, you'll look around and realize the people who used to ignore you don't matter. They never did. They were just extras in your story, background noise, and you gave them the starring role. But not anymore. Now you're the author, the director, the star of your own life. And their attention, their dismissal, their entire existence is just weather, just circumstance, just things that happen while you keep building, keep growing, keep becoming. Welcome to the other side of need. Welcome to the kind of power they can't touch. Welcome to the unshakable foundation that comes from needing nothing from no one. This is what the Stoics discovered 2,000 years ago. This is what being ignored has been trying to teach you all along. This is your biggest advantage, if you're wise enough to use it.